Welcome to Psychic Encounters. My guest tonight's Les Holloway. Welcome to the show, Les.
Well, thank you, Diane. It's a pleasure to be back here with you.
Well, people who've watched the show before know that Les works as a aura reader, so he can give us some information on auras tonight.
Well, auras are something that's very beautiful around people. You can see the colors of the energy fields. You see there are various energy fields. You can have an emotional field. You can have a
mental,
spiritual, mental, and you can see the colors. And the colors, you need to let your own intuition decide and tell you what the color means, because the same color can mean various things. And I always cite the example of green. Beautiful emerald green can be a very terrible jealousy, or it can be a growing. I see it around children, and that means that they're just growing well. The green also can be a balance color, a color. When I say balance, I mean there's a balance of the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and also one time I saw it, and it told me that the man was living at an animal level, not a thinking level. At any rate, I think you have to. You can see the auras. I see them, and others see them. I believe that Diane sees them. People say, well, no, I can't see them. Well, you just need to practice, and I believe that that's true of any psychic abilities.
One thing I teach is, I teach the basic colors, and I think the colors have basic meanings. But I teach people how to feel their auras first, because the sense of touch is better developed than the sense of sight. In most people who have psychic ability start with clairsentience. So when I teach a class on auras, I teach them first I teach them to try to feel where the aura begins, because you'll feel a resistance. When you put your hands close to somebody's head, you'll feel a resistance. That's where their aura begins. And people have a personal distance. And people who don't believe in auras, you can walk up to a person, and depending on the culture and how close you are, if it's a stranger and you walk into their personal space, they'll keep backing off so that you give them more personal space. If it's somebody that you're really close to, and like I said, again, culture to a certain extent defines that. Somebody from like an English culture would probably want more personal space than maybe somebody from Greece or Spain or from a different type of culture. But this space is what space you're comfortable with, and again, it varies. If it's your husband, your wife, your child, a very close friend, then the person can stand right next to you. But if it's somebody you don't know, or it's just a casual acquaintance, you may feel uncomfortable with them in your space.
That's very true. That's very true.
That's your auric field, is that space.
And you watch that. If you get up too close to a person, you can just almost feel yourself backing off. Latin Americans tend to be a little closer. And also you allow yourself to be you know that you're vulnerable when you're intimate with a person because they're in your aura. And you're absolutely right. The field is here, and you want to be very careful about who you let into your aura.
They had the basic colors, and color red can either mean lust, yes, sexual types of things, or it can be anger or frustration. Red will show up as frustration as well.
And also inflammation of the body, fevers or things of that kind.
You also have pink, which is a mixture of white and red, which is spiritual love, kind of a higher level of love. That's why they always have Valentine's Days with pink hearts instead of just red ones.
I always see that as kind of a very, I call it day-glow lavender around people. And when I see that around a person, I know that they've just done something very spiritual for themselves, or they're into the spirit a great deal. The other thing I want to mention is that the colors, if I see a green person that I think is balanced, it may be that the person's trying to become balanced, too.
And then your next set of colors, let's see, a yellow, which is the color of the intellect. If someone's got a lot of yellow in their aura, they're pursuing intellectual pursuits. Orange is energy. Green is, like you said, harmony, peace. I always use the analogy that nature paints her palette with green, so it's a color of nature and harmony and peace and serenity and balance. Like you said, green with envy, that term comes from being green with jealousy, but that green's usually, in most cases, an olive green. Then we go from green to blue, and blue is a spiritual color, religious devotion. Then there's indigo, which again is another spiritual color. Then there's purple, which is a high spiritual color of devotion. Then there's gold, which of course when you see the auras, the golden halos in the churches, that is the idea of spiritual devotion to an ideal or a cause, like Jesus has a golden aura and the angels all have golden auras.
Well, again, I suggest to people that they need to allow their own intuition to interpret the color for them. Orange, for example, sometimes will mean courage, looking for courage, or self-confidence. The indigo blue, to me, if I see it up along here in the hairline, tells me that person is very psychic and is listening to their intuition. So I think you need to again, don't forget that you've got a gut feeling, a hunch, call it intuition, whatever you want to do, but you must listen to that also.
And I was reading an article in the paper about the meaning of colors and people's personalities and how people with certain personalities will like certain colors. Well, blues and pinks have always been my favorite colors. But you can also, like if you're feeling low or you've got a cold or something, you might want to wear a color green for healing or color red for energy. You can also, I teach people in my classes how to do color breathing. I do that in the aura class. Like if I use the color pink because it's one of my favorite colors because it does represent spiritual love. And I teach them how to breathe in pink and exhale pink and have a big pink cloud around themselves. And I always had them envision cotton candy because to me that's the epitome of a pink cloud. And breathe in this pink, and they always say it gives them kind of a feeling of peace or serenity when they're done with the pink color breathing. But whatever color, if you wanted to work on your health, you could use green. So you can use color breathing too to balance your aura.
Yes, you can. You can just feel those colors coming into you, and it does help. And help you in terms of what you're feeling that color means for you.
Yeah, I just thought of something interesting. I was just thinking about sports teams, not that I watch them too often, but they're almost always bright colors like yellows and oranges and reds, colors of aggression. I've never seen them in pink or lavender or maybe purple and dark blue, but they always, 90% of the time, they're really bright colors.
Well, it raises a whole other question. I believe that we pick out colors to wear of where we are at that time when we're picking out the color. Perhaps you need the blue that you have on today for the healing, the healing properties of it. I don't know that you're sick, and I'm not picking that up, but maybe you're sending the blue energy to somebody isn't feeling well.
Well, blue's also a spiritual color, though. People that like blue is also a spiritual color.
Well, that's true, too. At any rate, if you're breathing these colors in, you can feel them, and you can feel them in the parts of the body where you need them and want them, and it's a big help for people.
You can also decorate. My house is decorated in beiges, but I use a lot of pinks as my accents because I've always, like I said before, like pinks. You can tell a lot about a person by the colors. And when I was looking for this house, I went into houses and said, oh, I couldn't live in this house. It's too much red, or there's too much orange. Fast food places, a lot of times they're decorated in colors like yellow and orange so they can get you in and get you out. It's not a place you'd want to stay, although Arby's have decorated their places in lavenders now. So that's interesting. We'll see if the people like to hang out there longer.
It'll be interesting to see. Again, going back to the colors that we wear, white, for example, to me indicates that you're trying to pick up the energies of all the colors and have sufficient of those to pass them on to other people. If you're wearing black, you're trying to pull them into yourself, and that you need those colors of all the and the properties of all the colors. But black and white have all the colors within them, but one is pulling in black, and one is being able to pass it out in white.
It also depends on whether you want to look thin or large. A lot of people wear black so they can look smaller rather than white, which makes you look larger because it reflects more light. So when you read someone's aura, how do you do that?
Well, I think it's done, again, as I look at a person right in here, you'll begin to see the color, and then it begins to, the rest of it go around the head first and then the body. And it can expand or it can pull in as the person is feeling as they feel, and you just begin to intuitively know what the colors mean and pass on to a person. For example, tonight yours has got a lot of pink lavender in it, which tells me that some way today you've been doing a lot of spiritual work for yourself. Yeah, you're a little dark, which tells me that you probably could use a vacation and go away for a long weekend, that kind of thing. That physical sort of just tiredness and fatigue that comes to all of us. I would say also that that you've been doing counseling. That can be psychic counseling, that can be personal counseling, it can be all kinds of counseling, because that to me is what the gold and the orange indicate, that you've been doing a lot of counseling, and probably on the phone or with other people today. But it's there also. And I want to say that the gold to me also is a person, gold and orange is a person that's a good listener. A counselor has to be a good listener if they're going to do a counselor. And often you find this in a mother. A mother is a good counselor, a good listener for her children, and it's a beautiful, beautiful color. I learned to do this about 10 years ago, and I learned to do it by looking at the tree line, because trees have energy in them. They have atoms. Anything that has an atom has a movement, and so that creates an energy, and so you can also see that. But the tree has a line of energy just along the tree line, very white, very small, and then over above that you get kind of it's like steam coming off, and to me it's chartreuse, and that tells me that that's the aura of the trees. And once in a while you'll see a darker flare from a branch or a tip of a branch, and that tells me that there's something going on with the tree. And then when it goes between another tree or goes to another tree, you know that they're communicating, they're talking to each other. So I've seen the trees talk to each other, and that's a really fascinating kind of a thing.
Well, that brings up another point, too, is that we have permanent parts of our auras. In other words, someone like me would probably have a lavender or pink as a permanent part of my aura. That would probably always be there because it's something I constantly do. Mm-hmm. And then we have parts of our auras that come and go. Let's say you were to get angry with someone, and that wasn't your normal nature, and your normal nature is not to be angry. It'll be like a little solar flare that'll just kind of leap out, that thought form will leap out, but it won't remain permanent part of your aura. And whereas that's why it's very, very important to maintain positive thought forms. I had a lady who sent me a letter, and I've been encouraging her to go into the media. She says, well, I've applied for it, but I don't feel very positive about it. I said, well, you might as well not apply, in my mind. You might, it would be like I talk on the show that people hear me say this all the time. If kids realized how difficult it would be to walk, we'd have McDonald's crawl through. Because, I've got to stand up on those two little things and balance to get from here to there. So the point is that if you continue to think positively, you're going to be a happy, healthy, you don't have to say wealthy, but financially secure person. You'll draw that into you, but you'll also make that thought form a permanent part of your aura, and like attracts like. So it's always good to practice the power of positive.
There's some other things that happen in the aura, I believe, and that you can find a history of this life in your aura. And there are times...
like rings on a tree?
Well, it's like, I think of it more as the layers of an onion.
Or rings on a tree. The history of a tree, you can cut the rings and see the histories of the trees when they had good seasons and bad seasons. Pull this
away and read. It's like the way I learned to do it was like, this is the layer from when I was born until 10, 12 years old, and then another segment of life, another 10 years, and another 10 years, and so on. But you can then begin to pick up and see some of the things which are significant to a person. And they may be things that the person is completely unconscious about at this time, but could be very beneficial to know about and to release. For example, I remember doing one time for a person whose mother had died quite young, like 2 or 3 years old. And when that came out in his aura, it was just like there was a tremendous relief. And so, some way or other, there was a counseling situation there that helped that child, or that he was a young man at that point, 30 years old.
Well, you know, when you talk about feeling vibrations off of people, too, like I feel negative vibrations or well, that's also part of that aura. You know, I was at the convention center on Sunday because I work there anyway. I was noticing how many people smile. To me, smiling is a very natural thing. I mean, what people say, don't smile, you get wrinkles in your eye. I'd rather have wrinkles in my face from smiling than the ones you get from not smiling. But if you have a positive aura, positive outlook, positive thought forms in your aura, people will pick up on those. Just like, you know, people think, well, okay, I can catch a cold from Les or Mary or Fred or whatever, but they don't think I can catch a thought. But there's some people they naturally avoid. There comes Greta Gloom, let's all go to the bathroom. She's going to talk about everything negative that's ever happened to her since she was 3 years old. The idea of your aura is that people feel your aura before they feel you. Positive vibrations will produce a positive aura. Negative vibrations produce a negative aura.
Okay, and I think that another aspect of that is that as you produce this energy, positive or negative, it sort of coats the walls around you, and so
yes. It also comes in your home. You're right.
You'll walk into a house and you'll know, gee, boy, do I feel comfortable here. And just sit down and you don't want to leave.
And I know sometimes I think I have to get an ejecta seat for my customers because they like my homes.
In other homes you'll go into it, like you can hardly wait to get out of there. And it's because of the negative energies or the positive energies that have been deposited on the walls.
Businesses have the same kind of vibration. Some businesses you go to, or restaurants you feel real comfortable with, and other places you don't. You just want to get out of there.
That's true, very true. And
you know, it's the 70s things. I get good vibes or bad vibes.
Yeah. What? Hey, you can do it yourself. Just close your eyes and just see you coating the walls with the color that you want, that you're very comfortable with, and then see how people react, and you'll find out very quickly where you are. It's interesting how that works.
Well, the verticals I chose for my house are, they shade from a dark rose to a very pale pink in each of the little slats. It's very pretty, but I like the color pink. I was trying to go back and forth between pink and blue, and I said, no, I think I'd really prefer pink right now because it gives you the energy and it gives you the spiritual love as well. And like I said before, people meet your aura before they meet you, and the idea is not to think positively once every 6 months and think something good's going to happen to you. It's continue to work on it, just like brushing your teeth.
Well, I happen to live in an apartment, and I'm not allowed to color my walls. They have to be white or whatever they painted. And so I just sit there and coat the walls the colors I want.
Well, I painted mine in whipped cream, which is kind of a yellow beige, but I just hang pictures and stuff that I enjoy on my walls. But,
that's true, too.
And I think, like you said before, if you get a cold feeling, I've been in some people's houses before where the temperature was warm, but I had a very cold feeling, or if I get a feeling of somebody that I don't trust them, or I'm not comfortable around them, I have learned to trust that feeling. There's a reason for it.
Well, I feel that so strongly that people need to be aware of what we're doing to ourselves, to our homes, to other people. And we can do that by being aware of the colors and the thoughts that we're putting out in our homes, in our neighbor's home, wherever it may be, our friends.
Well, speaking of homes, now my home's only been owned by 3 people, and in 30 years that's rather unusual. My house is almost 30 years old. 3 sets of people. There was a family, then there was a second family, and now I own it. And everybody in there has always been really positive, so I never had to clean out that house, so to speak, and revitalize it because it's always had sort of a positive energy level around it. And my house feels comfortable. I mean, it just feels very comfortable. It's a place that you feel comfortable with being. Now, I've been in people's homes that are like museums. You know, you walk around the house thinking, gee, I'm like in the Smithsonian if I touch this. Or there's no vibrations in those houses. There's no feelings of warmth or caring or anything like that. It's very sterile.
Another aspect of your home is, if in an older home like that, you may have some spirits around. What's been your experience with that?
No spirits in my house. Everybody actually that's ever lived in my house is still among the living.
Okay, but have you been in homes or in buildings where there have been some spirits, or how do you look at that?
Oh, I believe there's spirits that get earthbound, but no, I haven't. I have a friend who lived in a house in Alabama that they rented very, very cheap. They couldn't figure out why they got it so cheap, except that there were 2 spirits in this house. There was a male-female spirit. They would do things like turn on the fan over the oven, stuff like this. So when her roommate moved out, she said, look, I'll move out of this bedroom. You guys can have this bedroom. I'll go across the hall if you guys just leave me alone. After that, they always left her alone. So I do believe, but that's really the exception to the rule, and the purpose behind that would be to let those spirits go to the world they're supposed to be in. They're not supposed to be trapped down here.
I've never really understood how to do that. I have not been into that aspect of the psychic phenomena particularly, so I was wondering if you knew that.
Well, how I've always
I'm interested because I won't know.
Release spirits is by saying the Lord's Prayer and send them where they're supposed to be, because they do have a specific destination where they're supposed to be. Now, by spirits, I'm talking about people that are no longer in physical bodies, not demons or angels or those kind of beings, but actual spirits that got trapped on the inner planes because they didn't want to leave at the time they were supposed to go. It's kind of like catching a bus and they missed the bus. But now they got to be convinced there's another bus. They need to get on it and get on with their spiritual development. That they know their purpose here has been served, and it's time for them to go to another dimension. See, I don't think heaven is a place like, you get off at Tampa and take a left and go 4 blocks north and you're there. Okay. It's more like a level of consciousness.
Well, are there various levels of spirits or this kind of thing? Because I have some spirit guides who are with me at all the time. For example, there is a Catholic priest, Father Alex, who's with me when I do readings, specifically for readings.
What I teach about the spirit world, which is what we talked about last week, by the way, is that spirits no more reform themselves when they go to the spirit world and taking off a jacket makes me a different person. So you have the scummy spirits on the lower level. Then you have your middle average run-of-the-day people who aren't any more enlightened on that side than they were on this side, running around doing their thing. Then we have what you would call spirit guides, and I believe there's 2 types of spirit guides. There's spirit guides that have never been physical in this universe or this world. They've always been inner plane beings. Then I believe there's spirits that have been here before and have one particular lesson to teach us. Now, I'm not sure these are objectified existences that are separate from us or whether they're parts of our subconscious mind, but they present themselves sometimes as being separate and sometimes as being a part of us. But I think in the spirit world that I'm not going to see you as you look now. I think how we recognize each other in the spirit world is by our rate of vibration. I don't believe we have a physical self any longer. I think when we first go over there, our astral self hangs around, and we'll get a shadow of what we look like. But the longer we're there, the more we lose our form. Sort of like the clouds and the white cloud commercial. Yeah. The longer we're there and the more purified we get, and the more we get into the emotional and mental bodies, the less solidity we have to our bodies, so that we eventually just become pure vibration. And how I would recognize my spirit guide would be by vibration, not my actual physical presentation of themselves. I do think they can present ourselves in a physical form, like the guys on Star Trek when they beam down and say, well, I don't want to look like the frog monster to these people, so I'm going to take a human form so I won't freak them out. So I think sometimes they take human form to please us. Well, I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I believe.
For example, I know I have a sister who died in 1957 in this life, and she's around some with me, and she's around my brother, and
she probably takes that form to please you guys too.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And then also I have my father's available to me once in a while, and he's around, and he sort of is a practical guy and helps me with practical things around the house or in driving or parking spaces.
Well, he can come over to my house anytime he wants. I have plenty of work to be done.
Well,
no, I know. I'm just teasing you.
My sister, for example, when she teases my younger brother, and she'll turn the oven light on or the disposal or things like that, and all of a sudden it's on, television's on, nobody's around, things of that kind. So it's fascinating to see those manifestations. Once in a while I see them sort of out of the corner of my eye. I can occasionally begin to distinguish some when I'm talking to somebody or perhaps doing a reading, and I will see a form beginning to come about out of a cloud, and then I begin to see an actual person and can describe them to the person. And once in a while I'll get a name, and so it's interesting to see how this whole business works.
When I see spirits, I don't see them as forms. I see them as, I call them paisleys. They look like paisleys. They're large, like blobs, and they're usually blue or purple, and they have like a a round part, and they have like a tail, okay? Not like a demon's tail. I don't give you the wrong impression. It's like little paisleys, and they usually hover on the right-hand side of the person. And usually when these spirits or guides or whatever you want to call them show up, it's because whatever information I'm telling that person is important, that they listen to that. It's like emphasized information. And it's like the little dot on the music, that goes along, and then it just disappears.
Well, it's been I know some people say that there are negative spirits, and there may be. I do not know because I have not had experience with them.
No, I haven't either. I look at it just like I don't hang around with drug addicts and people like that, so why would those level of spirits be attracted to me?
Well, if there are, because I just have not.
I'm sure there are.
I have just not come across any, and I'm very grateful if they are such that I don't have to deal with them. On the other hand, many people talk about it.
I think they use it as fear and intimidation to control people, too. Just like they tell people that the psychics are the devil's work. It's to control people, to keep them going to them for their religious insight rather than looking inside of themselves.
Well, that's true, and it upsets me when I hear somebody who has influence over other people and their beliefs who get into this kind of a negativity and indicate that all spirits are negative and devils or whatever it is, because that's not true.
Well, no, all people that have passed in the spiritual world are not negative. I mean, just like you can't say all American Indians are some way, or all Japanese people are some way, or all Hindus are some way, or anything else.
True.
All spirit world is people that are no longer in physical bodies. So how could you possibly say it's filled with just negative things? I read an article in the paper about the supposed wars between the angels and the devils. Well, I don't think that there's any such purpose in the universe that's served by, because I personally believe that God is much more powerful than a lot of people believe. A lot of people see God as this little God who argues with Satan constantly. And the cutest thing, I was watching Robinson Crusoe, and Friday the Savage comes up to Robinson, who's supposedly a very educated British man, and says, "Your God not powerful?" And Robinson Crusoe says, "What do you mean?" "Friday's God much more powerful. Friday's God beat devil and get rid of him. I no understand Robinson Crusoe's God." So I'm sort of with Friday the Savage. I mean, I don't really believe that I'm sure that people can create that kind of negativity if they think it into existence through a thought form. But actually a separate existence now, I don't believe that evil lives as a separate being.
Yeah, I want to emphasize it's my belief that the negativity is in here, in
you
people,
generate it out,
and
yes.
It's generated by us,
now,
not the spirits.
One thing I do believe is that because people have believed in devils and demons for so long, that they exist in the fact that people created thought forms of them, and that you can tune into those thought forms and bring them into your life. But you can invite, criminals, drug addicts, and murderers into your home, too. I mean, personally, I chose not to do that. I mean, maybe if they're reformed, I might consider it, because I don't like to judge other people. But basically, it depends on what you want to attract to yourself. It's all up to you.
Well, my God, with whom I can be in touch, is so beautiful and so filled with peace and joy and laughter and the happiness and the good things and the positive things of life that there isn't room for the negativity in my God. So,
well, I look at God as there's various levels of what we would call God, or the universal being, as a source of all love and kindness towards humanity. It's sort of like, I was thinking, this is a very poor analogy, but I was thinking the other day, to my cat, I'm God. I feed him, I give him water, I love him, I nurture him, I make sure he doesn't get outside and get hurt by cars, or that other people don't do negative things to him. I protect and care for him. Now, why shouldn't my God love me as much, if not more, than I love my
that's true.
Putty cat? But to him, I'm God. It's dinner time, Mom. Where's dinner? Because I'm the source of all goodness to him, and I think I see God as the source of all goodness for human beings. Well, it's time to go to our break now. When we come back from our break, we'll do our call-in format, Les. So we'll hope our audience will hang in there for a few minutes while we take a break.
Valuable seconds are lost by emergency vehicles when responding to calls at poorly marked homes and businesses. When lives and property are at stake, every second counts. Your address can be a vital link to your safety. Make sure it's posted in a highly visible place. For further information, contact Hillsborough County Emergency Telephone Operations at 272-5911.
There was a time when the Florida Panther prospered, but times have changed. As we take more space for our homes, we take away space from his. Our growing concrete jungles are replacing the woodlands the panther needs to survive. Our ever-expanding highways place a dangerous obstacle between him and his hunting grounds. He is now an endangered species. The Florida Panther can win his struggle to survive, but he needs your help. Save the Florida Panther. Call 1-800-5-FLA-CAT.
Working together, horses and kids can become a team. Join 4-H and learn teamwork, sportsmanship, responsibility, and leadership, and have a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to take your colors. If it's okay with you, Les, I'll start with the first color, and I'll give the second one to you.
Fine, Dan?
Well, we can work together, however. It doesn't
No,
really
that's
matter.
fine.
Hello, this is Diane. You're on the air. Hello? Hello? Let's try this one. Hello?
Hi, Diane. How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm just kind of up in the air as far as my future goes. We had talked like several weeks back,
Uh-huh.
and I'm still not having any luck as far as my employment or basically jumping on my feet.
Basically what on your feet?
Getting back on my feet.
Oh, okay. Are you the lady with the baby?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. Your baby's not born yet, is it?
Yes. He's born.
How old is he now?
I'm sorry?
How old is he?
About almost 9 months.
Okay, so yeah, you do have to find employment, definitely. Did you try to get child support from the father yet?
Okay, you must be thinking of someone else.
Okay.
The father and I are together.
Oh, okay, so I am thinking of somebody else. It's just important that I get the right person here. Are you trying to set your schedule around the baby's schedule so you don't have to work outside of the home full time?
No, I have somebody to watch the baby, so that doesn't really have a problem.
Okay.
That doesn't really cause a problem for me.
Well, I feel like there's some kind of barrier to you going back to work. Is it the length of time you've been out?
Well, I've been out for a little while now. I'm getting kind of discouraged about it.
Yeah, I thought so, because what I
I haven't
see...
really been able to find anything that I want to do. I can find anything, but I don't want to go with anything. I just basically want to find something that I'm going to enjoy.
And what area are you looking in? See, I don't think you know what you want.
Well, I do data entry, and I've done data processing.
Yeah, but you don't want to do that anymore, do you?
Well, no, I think I'd like to continue being a receptionist. I enjoy doing that because I enjoy working with people.
That's what I thought. So, by the way, you working for a temporary company?
No, I'm not working.
Okay, what you might want to do, see, we're in a recessionary economy, which makes it much tougher to get a job than under normal circumstances. Probably what you might want to do is call up a temporary company, go back to work for a temporary company, tell them you want to look for a receptionist job. But see, the trouble with being a receptionist is you want something where you can make some decent money and go somewhere. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
You want to make $5, $6 an hour. And most receptionist jobs are $4. Maybe you should...
No, well, the ones I've been going to, they're starting off at quite a bit, which it'd be nice, but I'm not hearing from them, which isn't, it isn't a lot of fun.
Right.
I do have a couple that are still up in the air, and I'm hoping by the end of the week I'll know.
Is one with a law firm?
I'm sorry?
Is one with a law firm?
No.
Okay, well...
I did work for a law firm.
Oh, okay. So you do have experience in the past with a law firm.
It was just for temporary, though, while I was pregnant.
Right. Okay, so actually I don't think any of the things that you have out in the, irons you have in the fire are going to turn out right now. Now, my advice to you is to go ahead and work. Can you go back to work for the same temporary company just to have some income coming in? While you continue to look so you won't be so discouraged?
Yeah, I could.
Well,
I don't know, I just don't really think that was right for me. It just wasn't really good for me. I didn't really enjoy doing it. I would like to work full-time, and I just haven't found any luck in finding anything full-time.
Well, that's why I'm suggesting that you go ahead and work for a temporary company until then. Okay, I'll give you an example. In my life, I wanted a full-time job, but I had 2 master's degrees and nobody's going to hire me, right? So I went to work for a trucking company as accounts receivable. They called me and said, "You work fantastic, Diane. We have great past dues. We'd love to hire you." I said, fine with me. I want a job. So they hired me, and then they called me in later and said, "Well, you have 2 master's degrees." I said, "Well, it's too late now. You guys hired me, you know." So that's how I got the job. Under normal circumstances, I'm sure it'd be easier for you to find a job, but like I said before, these are not normal circumstances. I think we're going to be in a recessionary economy for a couple of years, so people are looking at where they can trim rather than hire extra employees. You see what I'm saying? So my advice to you is to go, and your future, people have this idea that your future is just out there and you march into it and it happens. No, your future is what Napoleon said, "I make my own opportunities." And also that way you'll get to know if you like the job before you take it. It'll give you some income while you continue to look. So I take it you don't want to go back into data processing.
I could, but no, I think I want to change, but I really don't know what I want to get into.
Right. And right now you can't afford to go back to school, can you?
Right. That's correct.
The time or the money.
That's correct. That's kind of, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Well, your other choice is to take a job maybe you don't like so much, but you like where you work. Okay, like I like working in a university atmosphere, so when I worked as a secretary there, a part-time secretary, I didn't mind it so much because I like going to school and I like being in that atmosphere.
Normally, if they want part-time, they want part-time evenings. Evenings is...
No, I worked 8 to 5 there. So, you know, why don't you try with the university and HCC? Because those would be settings that you would enjoy. You also eventually want to go back to school, don't you?
That's correct.
So why don't you, and you get, by the way, if you get on the University of South Florida, you get full-time, you get paid vacations, you get paid holidays. Your secretarial skills aren't real good, though, are they?
No.
Okay, but you could do data entry, or you could work in a division like student loans where you take applications, or housing, and they have openings. So I think what you need to do is, rather than look for a job with a corporation, is look for an area that you'd enjoy working in where you can move up and yet acquire your education at the same time. Maybe that's why you haven't gotten these other jobs. See, another thing I believe in is that if we're heading in the wrong direction, God keeps little barriers up so that we don't end up being where we really don't want to be. In the meanwhile, why don't you go ahead and just work for a temporary company until you can get what you want rather than just taking something to have it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Do you see me, like, being on my feet anytime soon?
Oh, yeah, it won't take you long. Well, financially, you guys aren't doing that bad, okay? You're not getting behind. You're just keeping even, right?
Correct.
Okay, so at least you're keeping even. So that means when you get your income coming in, you can either save it or loosen the bills up a little. But I think by March or April, you'll be out of it. And like I said, to me, all right, if I'm making $100 a week, that's better than zip, right?
Correct.
So go ahead and try with a temporary company, and then go ahead and put in your application at USF. You're young, aren't you? What are you, 23, 24?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, you'd also enjoy working with those people, you see. It wouldn't be like working for the Arthritis Foundation where everybody's got their teeth in the jar and they're 105 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So I look in those areas and look at like they have student affairs, the buildings or the organizations. You wouldn't want to work for the engineering department, okay? So why even apply for a job like that?
All right.
And
You see anything in my stars?
stars, I don't, next week I have an astrologer and I don't do stars.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. So we got another caller on line 3, which I'll let you take this one. Hello, this is Diane. You're on the air.
Hello, Diane.
I'm going to give your call to Les, okay?
Oh, okay. I wanted to find out about love and business.
Don't want much, do you? You have to ask a specific question. Which do you want to know more about, love or money?
Money.
Okay. Boy, that was a quick
Wow. Are you working right now?
No, I'm planning on it.
Okay. Well, I think that there would be a job for you in about 2 weeks' time. What kind of field are you in?
Sales repping.
In what?
Sales. I'm repping a company. I'm
Sales representative.
Sales rep. Okay.
By the way, are you in some kind of training program with this?
No.
Are you going to be developing a new line or doing something new?
Yes, developing a new line.
And that's what I
State of
thought.
Florida.
Yeah, you're going to be very busy with that. It's going to be very demanding.
Okay.
And by the way, I don't think the money you seek is going to lie with this company. And I think by August or September of next year, you'll either be in a management position with this company or looking at a management position with another company.
Okay.
That's what you want, isn't it?
Basically, yes.
Do you have management experience in the past?
No.
No?
No. Not at
Okay.
all.
What are you, 24, 25?
No.
How old are you?
Well, for the company that I work for, they have a different idea because of the type of job that I'm used
No, I ask you how old you are.
to. Okay, I'm really 19.
Ah, so you're just a kid. Oh, well, you're a young man still. So anyway, I do think you'll have an opportunity with management at that time.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, am I allowed to ask another question?
Real quick.
Okay, how about love?
What do you see with love, Les?
Well, I see about 4 different ones, so which one do you want? You have the choice at this time, and I think that there is, there are 2 blondes, as I see, and there's a redhead or a blondish red. Somehow or other, apparently, you like the blonde, so at any rate, there is one there for you, and any time that you want. I believe that you will not actually settle on one for some time, so enjoy your life.
You're going to be busy.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Hello, this is Diane. You're on the air. Hello? Well, let's see if somebody comes back on again. Anyway.
It's interesting how that works with people. They want to, I think that all of us in terms of companionship and love want a person eventually. Someone that you're going to have a depth of feeling for, a depth of companionship, a depth of friendship, as well as the physical and the other kinds of love that's there. And yet, for a young man, it's very ego-building to have several who are interested
You mean a young man and for old men, too.
or even old men like me.
I didn't mean that you're all less than it.
I'm not in spirit.
Oh, well, no, you're not in body either. Old is a relative state of mind. Let's try this one. Hello, this is Diane. You're on the air.
Hi, Diane. This is Jan. I'm in one of your classes.
Ah, I know you. Are you going to be back this week?
Yes, I sure am.
Well, good. We're going to do reincarnation this week. So
Great.
how are you doing with looking for your house? You've decided to stay where you are.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, good. So,
My mom is here, and we thought we would call and see if, is it possible for this gentleman, I'm sorry, is his name Les,
yes.
to read auras over the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, I was going to put my mom on. I was going to ask her a question about
What's your first name?
Wanda.
Wanda right now has got quite a bit of darkness in there, and I believe it's due to some frustrations in terms of relationship. I think that also has to do with something in terms of one of her grandchildren. There is also a very much of a factor of a blue, and that tells me that one of the kids is not well, and that she's trying very much to send a healing blue to that person. I think it's a boy. At any rate, in addition to that, there is a sense that she's a very good listener. She has some of that gold and of the listener that I talked about, the orange in her aura. There is also another factor that she needs to work on, and what I'm picking up is that the spiritual needs to be worked on. She wants it, and she's got some lavender in her aura, but the actual spirit itself, it's more a desire rather than actually working on it. So don't forget to do some reading, some meditation, however you find wherever you find your own spirit, I would say to you to go and get some on a daily basis if at all possible, because that seems to be the one area of the aura that is not as developed as the others. By the way, I don't know if you can see right now, but Diane's has become extremely gold, and that tells me that she's in her counseling mode, as well as having the psychic color in it. All of a sudden, it just showed up on the television monitor. So, at any rate, Wanda, I think that there's also something going on with one of your arms, and it may be a little arthritis in the joint or something, and you might want to pay some attention to that.
Okay, Jan.
Wow.
We'll see you Thursday night.
Come on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello.
Hello, Psychic Encounters?
Yes.
Listen, Diane, the man said that you needed, your aura was telling you that you needed to get away from...
I don't know who this person is, but unless they have a question, I usually just let them go.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that, but...
well, you know...
You've been doing this for a long time,
yes,
so
I've
you
done
know...
it for 5 years. In fact,
you have a
this is
good
my 5th
experience.
anniversary was last month in October. So.
Really? So...
Yes, so we've done this for a while. Radio gives you a few more luxuries than TV, like you have a delay.
Yeah.
And you have a cough button, all kinds of luxuries that you don't have on TV.
That's true.
Plus live TV, really, people haven't done live TV in a long time except for live news. Most TV is now canned or packaged.
Well, that's true, and it's not live anymore. It's already done. The interviews have been taken care of, so that you can edit them or whatever.
Even what's the name? Murphy in the Morning's still live, but you know, the talk shows like Oprah Winfrey. Most of those are taped too.
Yeah. Well, I know that like Price is Right and all those game shows are a delay of 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, so they have to be taped. Anyway, it's fascinating. I wanted to. Okay.
Or were you going to say something?
Well, I wanted to say to you that I've been on the program before, and you're so easy to talk with and to work with, and it's a real pleasure to have known you. And if this is your 5th anniversary, may you have 5 more.
Well, thank you. I know a lot of viewers watch the show every week. Hello, this is Diane. You're on the air.
Hello. I wanted to know about, I had some personal problems.
Uh-huh.
And,
how old are you, by the way?
I'm 21.
You sound young for your age. Go ahead.
Okay,
they probably ask, can I talk to you, Mother? And you go, no, she's not here. Actually, you have a pretty good life ahead, but you've been very depressed recently, haven't you?
Yes.
Are you married?
Yes.
And you're having trouble with your marriage?
Yes.
And you're not quite sure what he wants to do next, because he's the one who changes from one day to the next, doesn't he?
Right. We're separated. We went with divorce.
Well, see, I think he plays what I call red light, green light. Just when he decides he wants to do one thing and you think it's all settled, can finally have some peace in my life, he changes the rules of the game. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you have a child?
Yes, I do.
And he's fighting over the child?
Yes.
I thought so. Child a boy or girl?
He's a boy.
What's he, about 4 or 5?
No, he's about 2.5.
Ah, so he's big for his age, huh?
Yes, he is.
Well, you're asking for primary custody, I hope.
I am.
Good. Stick out for it, because you're the more stable of the two. Your husband's not a very stable person. He's not a very emotionally stable. And by the way, what he thinks he'll do is what he's always done to you in the past. That's intimidate you into winning. Isn't that true?
Yes.
He always puts you under his thumb.
Make me feel the worst he can.
Yes, so you have to stick it out. And do it for your son's sake as well. But you're slowly going backwards financially, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Are you living with your family, or are you on your own?
No, I'm living with my parents. That's the only way I can survive right now.
Well, that's what I mean. You and the kid aren't going to starve then, so that's good.
Right.
By the way, your parents, you can stay there till you're 100 years old and till your son's 80. They don't care.
Right.
And your father's real upset about the way this man's treating you.
Yes, he is.
In fact, you're having a hard time making sure your father doesn't go do something like rearrange his face without the benefit of plastic surgery.
Yes. That's true.
And this man's working, too, so why is he being so cheap about the child support?
He just says that I spend it on myself when he really has hardly given me any.
You want to hear something cute? I had this man come to me for a reading one time, and he says, my wife spends all her child support money on herself. I said, well, what does she do with it? He says, she pays the mortgage. I said, what do you want, to live out in the bushes? You know? To me, that's not spending it on herself.
And I would like to know about...
By the way, you have an attorney, don't you?
I have one.
Good. I like your attorney, by the way. Your attorney is very confident, and your attorney is also very protective over you, isn't it? I don't know if it's a he or a she, but the attorney is very protective over you, aren't they?
Yes, and he's very calm, too.
Yes, so I think he's very good for you. I think your divorce will be final by summer, but he's only holding, and by the way, your husband's seen somebody else, if that's any ammunition for you.
Uh-huh.
She's short with dark hair and dark eyes, and he's known her from the past, and she even works where he does, or she comes around his work.
Oh.
So keep your eyes open.
I will. And I would like to know what is set for me, like for love life in the future.
Well, you got to get rid of this one and get your life straightened out. Are you working, by the way?
No, I don't work.
Are you going to look for a job?
I'm going to school.
Okay.
College.
So how much more education do you have?
I only have like 6 more months.
Okay, well, my first thing is to get divorced, get your education. I always tell women to look at men as luxuries,
Yes.
you know, to pretend like, well, if I never got married again, could I take care of myself? Because the truth is, and this may sound hard, but usually attorneys don't marry waitresses at Burger King, okay? People generally marry people on their own socioeconomic ladder. Now, that sounds awful, but, you know, I think the idea right now is to improve the quality of your life, get your son about 3 to 4 years older, then consider marriage again. Now, you're a pretty woman and you're intelligent, so you'll never have trouble. In fact, you attract men right now. It's just that you don't want to be bothered with most of them.
Yes.
And give them the hacienda and burro test. Do you know what that is? Do you have a hacienda? Do you have a house? Do you have a burro, a car? Are they paid for? If so, yes, I'll consider going out with you, sir.
Okay, I will.
But no, I think right now you should also date for fun. And, you know, really, when you married this man, you weren't ready for marriage. He intimidated you into it.
Yes.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
He kind of just stayed after you till you got tired of being chased, so you finally said, oh, okay, I'll go out with you. And, by the way, another thing you need to look for besides financial security is sensitivity, because you're a very sensitive person. And your son has got more of your makeup than your husband. He's a very sensitive child.
Yes, he is.
And that bothers you when your ex-husband takes him, because when he comes back, he's real upset.
Yes, he is, too.
And he cries.
Yes.
And this really disturbs you and your parents.
Yes, it does. When he comes here, he's just the one to be bothered. He just cries, kicks.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. So, there's 2 things. Go ahead and get through with your divorce, finish your education, and talk to God and ask God for a good solution to this. Because if you had a girl child, he wouldn't give you the time of day. Do you know what I'm saying? The only reason he's interested in this child is because it's a boy. Your husband's Mr. Macho Man. It's true. So just pray for the strength to make it through this period of time. Hope he meets some other woman and leaves you alone. Okay?
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye. People laugh when I tell them about the burro and hacienda test.
Yeah.
Well, that way they won't borrow your burro and will live in your hacienda, you know? Oh, we got
Well, as long as the burro doesn't
That's
haul too
relaxed.
much.
This is Diane. You're on the air.
Hi, Diane.
How are you doing this evening?
I really want to thank you for bringing the metaphysical aspect to somebody local. I have 2 questions for you, Diane. First, employment. I have applied for a different and better job. What do you see for me there?
Les, anything you want to offer something you add in?
Well, I see it going through, and I see
Yes,
it's
she will. It'll be a
happening very
delay.
well, and she'll be very pleased with the money that goes on there.
I think there'll be a little delay, though. I don't think you'll get it till around Valentine's Day, but it is yours. And the delay is due to financing or some kind of, like regulations.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
That very well could be.
Yes.
Okay, the next one's the old eternal question, my love life. I'm not very well pleased with certain gentlemen that I've been seeing lately.
Oh,
Well, I can understand why, and you know what you're just going to have to do like I'm supposed to do and just say, hey, it's over, and have it done with. I realize that's very difficult to do because he is not doing anything that's specific like hitting you.
irritates her all the time.
Yeah, and not, he's not hitting you. It's not urgent. And so I'd say that those little things that are constantly getting under your skin, well,
Exactly.
and when they get to a certain point, you'll just turn on him and say, "What's your sign anyway?"
My son,
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Well, I don't know what you're waiting for. Most Capricorns get things done quickly.
Well,
They think about it a long time first.
I think the thing with you is when you met this man, you were kind of lonely and he didn't look so bad. So you figured you'd take him and polish him and dust him off and he'd be okay, right? Isn't
Actually,
that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll meet somebody new at your work and your new job that will please you a great deal more.
Well, that all sounds very encouraging. And thanks again.
By the way, don't go away yet.
Oh, why not?
Because I got a couple things to tell you. One thing, I do teach metaphysical classes, so if you want to wait till the end, you'll see my phone number's at the end anyway. And back to the other part is, I think by April or May, you think you know what you want in a person, but you really haven't come to a firm conclusion in this life of what you want over the long term.
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
You vacillate. Now you think you have to compromise. Personally, I don't think you have to compromise. So I don't think you need to make a list of 1,008 things, okay? I mean, I know psychics that tell you, make a list of 4,008 things. I said, well, God, I'm never going to find anybody like that. So rather than do that, I just ask God to send me the right person for my level of awareness at this time. I mean, my soulmate might have gone off to Mars to visit somebody else in this life, so I'm not going to hang out for my soulmate, you know?
Diane, where are you located? In Tampa or?
Oh, yeah, I'm in this area. I got 2 more minutes. Like I said, if you wait to the roll-in at the end, I can't give you my number over the air, but it'll be on at the end of the, you know, in the credits.
Uh-huh.
It'll be on in the credits.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, we're being told we just have 2 more minutes, so we're not going to take any more callers. We'll just chit-chat for a couple more minutes. And, you know, it's a neat thing about how fast the time goes. You think an hour is going to take forever.
Yeah, it really does.
An hour in radio or TV is just like no time at all. You go, wait a minute, has an hour gone by? The nice part about radio is you get more breaks than you do TV. But anyway, I always enjoy having Les as a guest because Les likes to talk about auras and like a lot of the other metaphysical things. I believe that you're responsible for your own life, the makeup of your life, and what happens to you in your life. I think the advantage of going to a psychic is maybe that person can help guide you along the road of life, but they will not and cannot make your choices for you.
Yeah, it's like what we pick up. It's like you might have 10 futures standing in front of you at any moment, any given moment, and you can choose which one you want to go to, but I, as a psychic, only pick up one. And it may be the most probable and the one that will happen to you if you're not making decisions. So make up your own mind and don't let a psychic run your life.
Well, I tell people I can show them maybe alternatives of things they hadn't considered, or maybe even, and I can remember telling this one particular lady that I thought these particular events were going to come, and they came forth as I saw them. But people have to, you know, like I can't tell someone who to marry or who not to marry, but if I have a bad feeling about a person, I can tell them that, then they can act on that information. I look at it like going to Consumer Reports and reading all the reports on the cars to see, you know, how they function, and you decide whether that's what you want in your life or not.
You give the options.
Exactly. Well, Les, I appreciate having you on tonight.
Thank you. My
I hope
pleasure.
that you'll be a guest again, and like I said, well, our show's been on the air for 5 years now, so I'm glad this lady called and mentioned the fact that she likes to bring metaphysical subjects to the Bay Area. And another thing is, metaphysics is a positive use of teaching yourself how to tie into what I call the universal forces, very much like using electricity in your home versus not having it. So the whole idea of, that's why I teach classes in this, and getting in touch with your higher self is to make your life, the quality of your life, better and easier, not just for yourself, but for all other souls that you come in contact with.
It expands all elements of your life, and I commend you to Diane and her classes in this area, and to your own awareness and to your own growth and progress. And
excuse me, Les, I'm being told we have to wrap it up now. So next week I'm going to have Jan Wasik, who does the stars, as the lady said, and she can give you some astrology insight. And thank you again for being our guest, Les.
my pleasure.